What's up, everybody? Welcome to Common Sense, the podcast, where candid conversation leads to real insights and raw truths about the world we live in. If you're not familiar with us, in each episode, we really try to connect with extraordinary people who have taken unique paths, overcome adversity, and made an impact. Whether it's through their...
That's new. I ain't never heard you get
why you
that
messing up
wordy
my
with it.
shit, Biz?
I'm sorry, y'all. It was some new shit that caught me off
fuck
guard.
you, Biz.
I'm just saying, but welcome to Common Sense Podcast, where we have fun, a good time, and a great conversation. That's the way we used to say it. Now Garrett has this whole new dissertation on how to do it.
Well, thanks for fucking it all up. Round one, and you decide to just chop
bad.
it up. They say the first 2 minutes are the most important so that we can grab their attention.
He's been reading, y'all. He's been
let
reading.
them keep going.
He's been reading. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to mess it up. You want to do it over, or did I mess it up?
Yeah, you're going to have to just restart all this shit.
I'm not going to restart it. This is what being live is about. I thought it was amazing.
So you didn't want to let me finish. You just wanted to jump right in.
The moment moved me and I interrupted.
You just skirted the record on me.
I'm sorry.
I see how you are.
This is what we do, Kenny.
This is real today's right? So I hope you're ready for this, Kenny.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, I'm used to see it's really interesting. I'm used to seeing Garrett without his clothes on early in the morning.
Man, Kenny, you can't say shit like that on here.
At the gym.
Man, I'm going to get
I mean, you're all dressed up. I mean, you know.
Yeah, with my nice little new Apex shirt that I finally remembered to get while I was at the last event. Anyways, since we're going to get back to it for you guys, because I'm super excited about this one, but we just like to dig deep into people's stories and go through their journeys for you guys so that maybe you guys can get a sense of what the path was like, what the journey was like, and not sugar-coated shit. This shit isn't edited. This is live. You guys get to hear my guests sit back, tell their story, and tell you about how they did what they did or how they're doing what they're doing and what pitfalls they had, what things turned into stepping stones that they thought were roadblocks. I mean, that is truly what it is all about, so that each and every one of you can gain something from it. And this man here, Kenny Bowers, is a man that I truly know is somebody that embodies all of that. Passion, perseverance, purpose. I mean, let's just dive into it, man.
Thank you. I'm going to get a swelled head from all this flattery. So,
well, welcome to the show,
Hey,
Kenny.
dude, honestly, I am, all kidding aside, flattered and grateful that you invited me on. I really am.
Well, thank you, man.
This is my first podcast. I've never done a podcast before.
I know you've done national TV and everything else, but he's never done a podcast, which was mind-blowing to me, but also good because Bob Duff, you owe me dinner now. Because Bob Duff said Kenny would not do this, and they're friends. So y'all that saw Bob on here, we're holding him accountable to that. He said this wouldn't happen. I made it happen for you guys because I know he's got a great story.
Well, and this is one of my favorite places too. This place. Yeah.
Not that you can catch him here very often. I mean, he's like the silent ninja that comes in here, gets it, and he's gone.
Right. I move like a cat.
Yeah. You're good at it. So
you're funny.
Kenny, you've opened up numerous successful restaurants with a strategy that I think sets you apart from most others in the industry. What is the core philosophy behind your approach, and how did you come up with it? Because I think it's a very unique approach to how you first started doing this.
Thank you. Yeah, obviously I'm a chef by trade. I mean, that's my craft, and I'll be the first one to tell people, look, you can get good food at a lot of restaurants in Dallas, or anywhere in the world. But to me, regardless, and listen, you can get all kinds of goods and services and different things in different businesses, whether it's a dry cleaner or a t-shirt shop or whatever. But to me, how you're treated and how you feel is really what drives the bus, at least for us. And so I just felt like, basically, trying to bend over backwards to make people happy, almost to the point, with me, almost to the point of neurosis, Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm a people pleaser by nature. Like I've had to go to freaking therapy to work on that. No, because it's too, you know, listen, I think a lot of people are, right?
Yeah.
And you're always trying to, you know, you're always, you know, worried about the other person, this and that. And it's like, so at the restaurants, I mean, we first opened up, you know, Kenny's Woodfired Grill. We're coming up on 20 years. But when we first started,
Congratulations.
Thank you. We had very little money. I mean, just, you know, really kind of bootstrapped it. Very little money. We were in a location that was, at the time, I don't know if you guys remember, but we were in the same shopping center, okay? But there was a giant furniture store.
Was it like a mattress store or something?
I think it was it was so long ago, I don't even remember, but it was Thomasville Furniture, I remember. And so people used to laugh and say that, yeah, you guys are in the crotch of the shopping center, because people couldn't see us coming down Beltline. And so, you know, we didn't have a lot of money. We barely got the restaurant open. And I felt like, you know, we served good food, our food was good, all right? And we didn't have the environment, again, we didn't have a ton of money, so the environment wasn't, you know, it wasn't like you would look around and say, oh my God, this is the coolest place or whatever. All we had was how we treated people. And I felt like if we bent over backwards and made people happy, you know, and took care of them, they would come back. And obviously, you know, no matter what business you're in, you're going to make mistakes, right? I mean, you're going to screw things up. So I felt like no matter what we did, as long as we, you know, made up for it times 10, you know, it's like, you know, you ever go to a restaurant and you know, something's not right, and, you know, and they're like, you know, whatever, I don't know, they overcook your steak, let's just say, you know.
Yeah.
They overcook your steak, and then they bring you a new one. And that's it. Do you know what I mean? Or you go to some restaurants and, you know, they overcook your steak and they bring you a new one, and they're like, oh, the manager wants to buy you dessert. You know, hey, and that's nice. But, you know, it's just, I mean, they screwed up. And of course they did it. Something like that, we would, you know, basically like, you know, comp the dinner. Do you know what I mean? And give them a gift card to come back. I mean, just basically, I used to call it having a little insurance. You know?
Yeah.
So I just think, you know, and it's funny, I don't know about you, but like even now, like no matter, like the restaurants that I go to, the businesses that I go to, it's all about like how I get treated. You know, I'll go to a restaurant that has food that's, you know, okay. You know, it may not be like, you know, the best, but if they treat you well, to me, that's what it's all about.
Absolutely. You know? I mean, I think that's one of the amazing things, and I think it's more at the Woodfired Grill that I noted this. Yeah. I noticed this at as opposed to some of your other restaurants.
Yeah.
You can have a 7:00 reservation. That doesn't guarantee you're getting seated at 7:00 because, and I think this is a compliment. Don't take this wrong.
No, go ahead.
But you might not get seated at 7:00, and it's going to be packed. Like, I mean, like there might not even be a seat at the bar. But your staff is so attentive to the fact that, yeah, you're waiting, but you're also not going to go over and have your waiters and stuff rushing a table to try to clear them out and feel like they're just trying to push somebody else in.
Right.
And, I mean, you all even note that, like, in your open table, if you're going to sign in and say, like, hey, we give you a grace period, please give us a grace period as well. You know, we want to serve everybody and make sure everybody has a great time. Yeah. So
well, and we give, you know, I mean, we have a really, really good team there, and we've got people that have been there for a long time, and we give the hostesses, hostesses, managers, everybody. We give them basically autonomy, where like a lot of restaurants or businesses you go to, people are like, oh, you know, let me go check with my manager. Right, let me go get a manager. Right, I'm sure you've heard that before, right? But we empower the whole team that if you're waiting for a table and we have I forget exactly what the the time frame is. It's after, if it's getting to the point where people are getting a little antsy, you know, we'll immediately like buy them a drink or buy them an appetizer, like get them, like, in other words. But my point is, a manager doesn't have to get involved. They know that they can do that, you know, on their own.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, you know, giving people the latitude. It's like, because like a lot of times, you know, especially when you bring in somebody new, you think about it, like, you guys go out to eat, you know. People, I always have to remind people, like, especially the newer kids that come in. It's funny, I call them kids.
They're grown adults,
Yeah,
but they're
right,
still a
I
little
know.
younger than us.
But I always have to remind them, look, these people drove past hundreds of restaurants to come to eat at our place. I mean, they could have gone anywhere else, but they came all the way here. We need to, you know, make sure that, you know, they're really, really happy when they leave, you know.
That's awesome. You did. I thought you might touch on this a little bit with
Sure.
that first question, and you didn't. And maybe I have this wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong. But I think one of the key strategies, and maybe this came after the Woodfired Grill as you opened up the others, but it seemed like part of your strategy was finding these you always hear location is everything. Yeah. So you'd find a location that maybe they didn't have the other things right, but you could come in and maybe you already had a kitchen that was, you know, a large part of it set up, things you could repurpose, and that was something you looked for. Do I understand that correctly, or is
dude,
that
100%. No, 100%. So the, you know, basically, you know, we all the restaurants that we've done are all, we call them second generation, right? Mm-hmm. Exactly what you just said. We'd go in, we would look at a place that, you know, maybe for whatever reason, either they didn't renew their lease, or the concept didn't work, or whatever, because it's way more cost effective that way. And like, it's basically, it'll cost you basically a third or 25% of what it would be if it was, you know,
brand new.
If it was brand new. And so the great part about that is when you don't have big loan payments to pay and this and that, and you don't need to make huge margins, you can give people more, right?
Yeah.
And so, but that's kind of how we would do things. But like, what happened is, you know, the Wood Grill aside, the Wood Grill initially, like, you know, I was a corporate chef for Rockfish like 100 years ago, and you know, and I decided, hey, it's time for me to venture back out on my own. And I had some other restaurants before that. This was like probably before your time. How long have you been?
I moved to Texas in '96.
Okay, 90. So this was busy.
I'm a youngin'. I've only been here since 16.
Okay, well, I had some places in the early 90s and, you know, whatever. But the Wood Grill aside, once that was open, it was kind of like, you know, I had an idea to do that, right? And that you know, and we found a place. Believe it or not, the Wood Grill was a fast food noodle place. It was a fast food Asian noodle place, and you know where the chef counter is?
Yeah.
That was the pickup window. I know it's crazy to believe that, but yeah, but that's weird. But anyways, but then what would happen was, we would get, you know, we wanted to expand. We would get a phone call, or we would look around at different restaurants that, you know, again, like I said, maybe going out of business, this and that, or didn't renew their lease. And so in shopping strip centers, if there's like already a burger place, you know, they won't let you do another one for the most part. There's restrictions. So that's how, like, for example, when we opened up our burger joint, you know, up in Frisco, it was like, okay, well, you know, we can't do this, we can't do that. You can do burgers, you know. And we had the smokehouse. That's how the smokehouse came to be. It was like, it Shops a Legacy. Well, we couldn't do burgers because what's the burger place that's there? No, that's
There's so many things changed there.
Yeah, there's a burger place there. Can't remember the name of it. I smoked a lot of weed when I was younger, so I think. But and you know, and we couldn't do Italian because at the time there was an Italian place and all this. The one cuisine that wasn't being served there was barbecue. And that's kind of how the smokehouse came to be. So does that answer?
Yeah, no, that answers it perfectly.
Yeah.
All right, so I don't want to jump to this, but since you mentioned it, I have to ask: Are the guys out front are going to beat me on the way out? Are you going to bring the smokehouse back? Because these guys are like, they're like, man, you need to hold Kenny down till he brings those $1 ribs back on Sunday, and he brings this stuff back. He's like, where's the Woodfired Grill? I used to eat there 2 times a week. That was my favorite barbecue in the whole Metroplex. So they're all wanting to know, like, why it went away, and if you're going to like bring it back.
Well, why it went away was sadly it was a business decision.
Pandemic.
We were there for 8 years, and we had 2 years left to go on our lease, and the pandemic happened, and we had to close everywhere. But then we were lucky in being where we are to open up relatively quickly in Texas. So we opened back up, and I mean, I don't know if you guys remember, but it was things were slow, and it took a long time. And in that particular location, we were really dependent on office and hotel and people from out of town. So it was a very slow ramp up back up. And when I say slow, I mean it was people were slowly trickling in. And we were bleeding cash, so it was kind of like that particular landlord didn't give us any help, anyway, so I was like, okay, guys, here's the situation, we can either keep dumping money in, and I don't know how long it's going to be before it comes back, or we can write a check right now for $75,000 and be done. Which that was on top of all the other money that we had to, because in all these leases that you do, if you there's certain clauses in the lease that basically say that, hey, if you close, you owe X number of dollars. That's why I always tell people, if they're opening a new business, we all open up businesses with the best of intentions, but look, shit happens, right? Life happens, and so you always want to have a stop loss, because if you don't and you sign a lease, you're responsible until they put somebody else in there, and it devastates people. Anyways, So I said, what do you guys want to do? And we made the decision. It just again, it was like, hey, let's sadly let's cut the arm off so that it doesn't affect the rest of the body, sadly. But okay, to answer your question, I mean, we're always looking around for for locations. Just we haven't found anything
next second gen
yet. Trust me, Garrett, when we find it, you will know. Now, that answers the other question. Now, but the last big thing is, they're not exactly the same, but they're close. We do every Tuesday at both burger joints, we do rib night at burger joints. So we do ribs for $2 a piece there.
All right, fellas, if you're watching this out there, there's your answer. So go to the burger joint.
Yeah. Well, sadly, with inflation, the dollar ribs are now $2 ribs, but you get the idea.
Yeah. I don't know how you even did dollar ribs back then. Yeah. I can't remember the last time that would make sense with the amount of time it takes to make ribs. Yeah. After you even buy them, the seasoning, the sauces, all that. I mean, that's
people
crazy.
like it, and that's the whole thing. It's like, especially, and again, it applies to any business. Not everything you do has to be for profit. I mean, you got to make a profit at the end of the day, right? That's we got to survive. Yeah. But it's like, every now and again you do something that's fun to do that people really love, and if you don't make much on it, it's okay.
Gets them in the door.
Exactly.
You provide value,
and
when you provide value, people tend to want to stick around.
So what took you down this road? Like, where did your love for cooking and the decision to become a chef come from? Because one of our longtime listeners, he wants to know, did you always know you wanted to go into food and be a chef?
So this is gonna. Do you want the long-winded answer or
You give us whatever you want.
Okay, so let's see. I moved here when I was. I was always a chubby kid that likes to eat. Right, I've always been that way. When I was little, it would be breakfast, and I wanted to know what we were gonna have for dinner. So always loved food.
I can back this up because when Kenny and I first met, since he wanted to talk about me running around half naked at the gym or whatever he said earlier.
Here we go.
Since that got fired off already. Man, I almost didn't like this guy because I got fat and I got back in the gym trying to get back on it. And like pizza's like my kryptonite. Pizza and Mexican food and Italian food, those are kryptonites for me.
Dude, I would eat.
And then I'm sweating on the treadmill next to this guy. We do our circuit stuff. Then we end up in the hot sauna, which I love and hate.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to stay in there. He's like Superman in there. He can stay in there for like 20 minutes. 10 minutes and I'm like dying. Anyways, the whole time we're sitting in there, Kenny's telling me about, well, man, have you ever been to my pizza place? Like, you should go on Thursday nights. Like, I've perfected this Detroit pizza dish, and you really should go on Thursday. It's the only night you can get it. I'm going, I hate you. I haven't had pizza in 3 months, and I'm dying. I'm, like, salivating in here thinking about pizza. And he's like, and we updated the menu over at the Woodfired Grill, and we got this new dessert and this and that. And I'm like, Kenny, I fucking hate you right now. Will you shut up and stop talking about food and desserts? Like, I'm the fat kid over here trying to get in shape, and
dude, that's why I go to the gym every day. And it's funny. I always, every once in a while, I'll joke with the trainers. I'm like, you guys should thank me because if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have any clients.
It's like I love wearing my Whataburger T-shirt to the gym. People lose their mind. They're like, Whataburger.
Dude, it's greatness. I mean, it literally, it's funny. I thought about actually showing up one morning with a couple of pizzas just to see like what the reaction would be, just be like, and some of these girls,
my God, yes.
Some of these girls, I mean, honestly, I didn't say it because I didn't want to get my head taken off, but sometimes I want to be like, hey, can I get you a sandwich?
Yeah.
So, but no, I always loved food, and so when I was a kid, I had a lot of learning issues, dyslexia, all kinds of stuff. And I remember my mother said, Kenny, you should probably learn a trade because school's probably not going to be your thing, And I went and I tried when I was a kid, in high school, I tried I worked with a plumber, I worked with a carpenter, whatever, and I was terrible at it. I just wasn't good. But I thought about, but again, I always loved food, so I thought, well, maybe I'll go to cooking school. And that didn't happen, but it was kind of I thought about it, right? And so I moved down here when I was 20 years old to work with some friends of the family, who I always refer to as my cousins and my uncle. We're really close, and and I did that for about 3 years, and this was back in the late 80s, early 90s, and I met a guy. But I met a guy from Connecticut who was a very well-known chef in Dallas at the time, Jack Chaplin. May he rest in peace. Jack passed away a few years ago, but he was my mentor. But anyways, I was in the insurance business. I was 20. I was by this time 21, 22, and I used to cook for my friends. I loved it. I was really getting into it. My sister, I have two older sisters. One of my older sisters, who my brother-in-law, the gentleman that he married, the gentleman that she married, went to culinary school. He was a chef, and so when I went to visit him, he went to Culinary Institute of America, which is one of the best cooking schools. But when I went to visit him, and I didn't know any chefs or anything like that, I just cooked for a hobby. So I went out. They were in California at the time, and I went out to meet him, and I spent like half a day with him in the kitchen, just kind of watching him. And I was like, man, this is really fucking cool. I'm like, I think I might want to do this. Anyways, came back, and Jack Chaplin, who I mentioned, we had become friends. He had a restaurant on Greenville Avenue that was a pretty well-known restaurant at the time that he ended up selling. And we started talking one day, and I was like, well, dude, what are you going to do? And he's like, man, he goes, I'm going to do a, I think I made a mention. I grew up outside of Boston, right? Again, he's from Connecticut. So he's like, I'm going to do a restaurant like back home. And I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, I'm going to do a New England style lobster and chowder house, just like back home. And I said, oh my God, I love that idea. And, so I was 23 by this time. And I said, well, dude, I'm like, would you be interested in taking a partner in? And he was about 12 years older than me, had 2 little girls. And I said, look, man, I don't know how, I've never worked at a restaurant before. I said, but I love to cook. And I mean, he knew that because we would talk about it. And I said, and so he said, you know what, Kenny, let me talk to my wife. Let me see. He said, a partner might be good to have. And anyways, to make a short story long, we made a deal, and we opened up Daddy Jack's Lobster and Chowder House together. This was we opened in '93 on Greenville Avenue, and it was there for 24 years.
God, I wish I'd have known about that and got to go there.
And so, but anyways, to answer your question, I always loved food and cooking, but never really, when I was really young, I never really thought about like, this is what I want to do. It just kind of, it happened. And once I met my brother-in-law and saw like what was going on, and then, I thought, wow, this could be really cool. And then, with Jack, it's like most people will like work at a restaurant or they'll do whatever. I had never really worked at a restaurant ever. And then I had saved some money, and so we made a deal and I dove in. I'm a, like, good or bad. It could be good or bad, but I'm go big or go home. I'm all or nothing. And so I started working with him, and I literally fell in love with the business, and the lifestyle and all of that. So
that's awesome, because I moved here from Connecticut. So and I was pissed off when I got here, because everybody's like, oh, you want seafood? Like, let's go to Joe's Crab Shack or Red Lobster. And I'm like, bullshit, that's not real seafood. Like, y'all are missing out. You don't know that this is garbage. We're a big fan of Lefties over in Addison.
Yeah,
that's
Lefties was mine originally.
Really?
Yeah. So what happened was, Jack and I, we had a great partner. I mean, just a great guy. And we worked together for 3 years. And by this time, I'm like 26, 27. And I'm like, hey, dude, let's expand. Let's come on. And I lived in North Dallas at the time. And he's like, look, Kenny, I'm happy with what we have. Kids are, everything is good. And, and I don't want to take, really any more risk at this time. And I said, okay. I said, well, so anyways, excuse me. So I said, look, I want to expand. And so he ended up buying me out. And again, it was very amicable and all of that. And then there were 2 gentlemen that I worked with, great guys, Chris and Gus Papa George. You probably know them from Lefty. They still own Lefty's.
Yeah. And
so we made a deal, and the 3 of us went into business together. And I said, look, I'll run the back, you guys run the front, and we opened Lefty's together. And the reason why we called it Lefty's, I couldn't use the Daddy Jack's name, and I don't know if you remember, but we are and I don't know if they're still doing it, but our whole like claim to fame was, and at Daddy Jack's was, we used to serve a 1-clawed lobster, which is called a cull, because they lost the other arm. And so we came up with the name Lefty's, because of that.
Gotcha.
Anyways, and so, but yeah, Lefty's a great restaurant, and but yeah, so you found that, so that's pretty close. So that was, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, like, to hear that you guys had this Boston lobster chowder house, man, like, I'd have loved to have found something like that. Like, I'm not a big chowder person, but lobster, crab, I'm all in. That's why my wife always wants to go there. She wants those crab legs.
No, is she?
No, she's born and raised here.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, and her family doesn't eat a lot of seafood and stuff, so it's something that I've like slowly got her into. But
that's great.
She loves the crab legs.
Oh yeah, you can't go wrong with that.
And you can't go wrong with them there.
Yeah, I remember we were I wish I had more of a visual on this, but so Daddy Jack's, we used to do, again, now this is back in the early 90s, okay? And we had a small restaurant. We had 60 seats. We served beer and wine. We didn't have a bar. On Monday nights, we used to do all you could eat lobster. You're gonna kill me for saying this. We used to do all you could eat lobster and crab legs and clams and mussels for $19.95. No bullshit. No anybody.
What year was this?
This was 19. This was 9. Let's see. This was like 94. Okay.
I don't even think you could get that in New England.
And so we had a line. We used to, all the great chefs that were in Dallas, like Kent Rathbun and they all used to come because it was the only place they could come where they could get enough lobster to eat and not be hungry. But I remember one time we were in the kitchen and Jack, again, imagine the kitchen was probably like smaller than this room that we're in, okay? And I remember...
That's a tight kitchen.
And I was working the lobster pot, right? And I was literally like, putting, like, basically, putting these lobsters in as quickly as I could. And so what I would do is, when you get a live lobster, they've got the bands on them, to keep the claws. And I would be pulling them off, staging them ready to go into the pot. And I remember at one point, I wasn't paying attention, and one of them grabbed a hold of my finger with the crusher claw. No bullshit. And I remember it wasn't funny at the time, but we had a restaurant full of people, literally, and I was like, fuck, it was like screaming. And Jack took the knife and was, basically stabbed the lobster to kill him. And anyways, he's just talking about that brings back a lot of memories. So
that's awesome, man. Well, opening a restaurant's no easy feat. I mean, especially in this, like, a competitive market like Dallas. Yeah. What were maybe some of the biggest challenges you faced early on when you guys were first starting out and opening a restaurant?
Let me tell you, it's always been extremely difficult. It's gotten way more difficult now, but it's luckily, so when I was in the insurance business, my uncle, who was like a friend of the family, but he was like my surrogate dad, he taught me, it's kind of like, it's interesting, Garrett, it's almost like the whole Karate Kid wax on, wax off thing. You don't really understand what you're learning while you're learning it, and then one day you realize what you learned. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So he taught me how to run a small business, right? So I was very fortunate that, I learned how to open a restaurant, make a restaurant, whatever. But I also knew how to run a small business. But it's really difficult because it's one of the few businesses left in the world where you manufacture on site, on demand in the back, right? Mm-hmm. Cooking food and everything, and sell in the front, right? So, not only are you dealing with, let's face it, most businesses today, you go to the store, and the product is already there in the package, and you buy it, and that's it. So you've got to deal with, the health departments, you've got to deal with, all these other, factors, and with cleanliness and everything else. Plus, it's a very capital intense business. Even opening a restaurant like we did, second generation. Like, just to give you an idea, today, again, it's different, now, but like even today, to open up a second generation restaurant, like where most of the stuff is already there. You could easily spend $400,000 or $500,000 to open a second generation restaurant. To open a new restaurant from scratch could be easily $1.5 million. And I'm not talking a fancy restaurant. So, so it's capital intense, right? And then, you talk about challenges, and then you've got, and then you have to buy inventory. You have to buy all the food, which is perishable, right? Because so it can go bad, and then you have to hire all the people, And, and back in the day, remember, there was no internet. There was no social media. There was no, there was no cell phones. I mean, cell phones were just kind of coming out, right? So you really depended on the write-ups that you got from the food critic, and if you had a bad night and you were and the food critic happened to come in and give you a bad review, I mean, it was like the kiss of death. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just...
Especially early on.
Yes. Sure. Again, there was no social media. There was, none of that stuff existed.
Dallas Observer shows up.
Exactly. And you don't know that they're there, right? So it was, in a lot of ways, back in the day, it was a simpler business. But again, you've got, it's capital intense. And, in a restaurant, you ever walk into a restaurant and it's really slow, like there's only a few people there, and it feels like, like kind of awkward. It's like there's no energy. Listen, we all want to go where there's people, so it's a really difficult. I mean, it's, I always tell people today, I'm like, it's a labor of love. If you really, really love it, do it. But there's people think that it's this glamorous, glorious, like you get to walk around with a chef coat or a jacket or whatever you're going to do. It's a really, really difficult business to be in, but it's also very gratifying too. So
I'm sure it can be, but I think you have to have that well-rounded perspective that you have, which is amazing that you had that so early on, considering you didn't start out like bussing tables or doing anything like that. Like, I mean, I know one of my first jobs, it was like a legit job. I worked at a 5-star restaurant.
Oh, wow.
A blacksmith's tavern in Connecticut. And that was a whole nother experience. But like, I couldn't even advance past bussing tables unless I had a college degree. Like, that's how serious this place was. Like, you had to have a college degree to wait tables. And the waiters all made 6 figures.
No kidding.
At this particular place. I mean, it was like famous. I mean, like, we served Dave Matthews, Oprah Winfrey, like all these people would come in there. I mean, it was really an amazing place, but that gives you a whole different perspective of what that world's like. And I think it's amazing that you were able to find your space in all of this without going to culinary school, without having really worked in the restaurant industry, and you just stayed with this like innate passion that you had.
I was very, very fortunate that I was able to meet some really, really wonderful people that mentored me. I mean, I think that's what, it's funny. I talk to a lot of the, you see the younger kids at the gym and stuff like that. We were friendly with them, but I was very, very fortunate so my dad died when I was very young, and so my whole life I always sought out. Like I always had like a lot of my friends were older. They were almost like big brothers, right?
Same.
So you can appreciate that. And so I always sought out people that that were older than me, and I was very, very lucky to meet again people that mentors that that really helped me along the way. And like I always tell people now, like, surround yourself with good people, go, and it makes such a huge difference, because especially like I always tell people, look, I always say, look, go to school, like, because like, in other words, what the stuff that I did, would have been easier had I gone to school, but I was lucky. And that's the thing about cooking is, people like, the Food Network and all of that kind of sensationalized it, but cooking, and when I say this, I don't mean it in a negative way, but cooking's just a trade. There's no difference between being if you're a tradesman in terms of whether you're a carpenter or an electrician or a plumber. Cooking is a trade. That's what it is. And it's just, again, it's been glorified and sensationalized. And again, and yes, there's a bit of an art to it as well. And I'm not saying that in a negative way, but it's a trade. And so I was able, again, the school thing wasn't my deal. So I was able to, learn that trade and meet a lot of really good people that helped me along the way. So.
Did you see Josh's question, or did you already talk about that?
I have a
No, because this is perfect.
I see it.
This is a perfect segue.
I'll fit it in for him here in a minute.
Yeah, because I wander a little bit busy.
No, but what you just said actually matches what he just asked.
So
That's why I said
Josh
that.
had another great question for you, and he wants to know, are all chefs really that big of assholes like they are portrayed in movies or Gordon Ramsay?
Let's see. That's rough. You see me squirming here a little bit. No, I would say no. I mean, here's the deal. So, okay. Back in the day, you know what I mean? When you talk about the super high-end restaurants and there were egos involved and all that.
Michelin stars.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of pressure and a lot of, like the show The Bear. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of.
Just started watching.
Okay, it's great. It's. I mean, a little of it is exaggerated, but honestly, dude, it's pretty cool. Like, it's definitely there. So, I mean, we can talk about that more, but no, I would say no. I mean, honestly, like, some people are like that, but not everybody. You know what I mean? And because nowadays, especially the way the world is, if you treat people that way, they'll just fucking leave. Yeah, I mean, now, especially now. So it's definitely changed a lot over the years. So,
Mark, Sharon, you're an idiot, but that's fucking funny.
Sharon is on here?
Yeah. So this is one of our big barbecue legends.
Great. Okay.
And he just said I'd eat more seafood if cows learned how to swim.
Sharon is on here.
All righty then.
Oh, that's greatness. Oh, well, man, you seem to be able throughout
That's really fucking funny. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sometimes these guys totally get me. What's funny is it's the ones that try usually don't, and then someone will say something like that, and it just absolutely gets me. Yeah. But you've really been able to, I think, and at least my perception of being around your restaurants pretty much the entire time I've lived here.
Which, thank you, by the way. I mean, I'm really, thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, hey, great food and great service, man. I mean, I can't knock it. I mean, I've had even before I knew that was your place, I mean, like, we've had birthday dinners and anniversary dinners and all kinds of stuff between Kenny's Italian and your Woodfired Grill. I mean, like, that was like a regular thing for us.
Great.
I wasn't as in tune or hadn't been to, like, the burger place or the pizza place until I met you. But they're absolutely amazing. But you've always kind of been able to stay at the forefront and ahead of the trends and, like, where things are going. So, I mean, how do you decide what concepts you want to explore between these different avenues and keep the creativity in the kitchen? Because I know you do a lot of different things, but you seem to really have a, like, masterful blend of that.
Thank you. That's very kind to say. I would say, again, I'm into food. So, I mean, I love cooking. I enjoy cooking and restaurants and things of that nature. But, I'm a firm believer in, doing what you do, but trying to do it really, really well. And the cuisines that we do are ones that I feel really comfortable with. It's like if you said to me, and it's what I grew up with, and it's what felt right. Like back in New England. I mean, again, neighborhood Italian restaurants were what we grew up with, right?
Yeah, dime a dozen.
Yeah, and so the essentially. The Italian, the pizza, it's like almost like Italian American food, almost like, Tex-Mex is to Mexican, but those were all cuisines that I grew up with that I felt comfortable with. And so I felt like, and really, sort of like listening to people. Like, I know, like, we all have things that we like, right? But I think, like, doing what you like, but also bridging the gap between what you like and what other people like. And if you can kind of, a lot of times what happens is, you talked about chefs being, your question was chefs being being assholes or whatever.
Yeah.
But the issue is, and one of the reasons why a lot of restaurants fail is because, when you don't listen to what other people want and you create food that you like and you don't pay attention to it, and you don't pay attention to what other people want, and you're like, no, this is what I think, then, you're not listening to the public. You only do what you want. It's just a recipe for disaster, because there's only a very tiny bit of there's only a very few chefs in the world that can pull that off, So I think paying attention to, what's going on, again, trends, but doing it within your bailiwick, like doing it within, in other words, if it's like, I like, for example, Asian food, I love to eat, but, cooking it, if I tried, I wouldn't do it well. It's not my cup of tea. So I think staying in your lane, if you will, is kind of the what I've always done. And like the stuff that when you the burger, the pizza, Italian, the wood grill, it's new American food with a little bit of a twist. So it's not too far out there.
Well, you nail it on the head for New England style, because, my family, when we moved up there, we moved there from Kansas, and,
originally Kansas.
We got Oklahoma, then Kansas, then New England, and then Texas. And Texas is by far my favorite place overall, and I feel like I'll always have a home here. And if I could just not shovel snow, I would love to have a place in New England as well. Like, I mean, my dad and I both loved New England. My younger brother and my mom hated it. I mean, like, they just, like, that was not their cup of tea, so to speak. And I loved it, man. Like, there's still a small part of me that, like, misses a lot of the things that were New England.
Well, it's funny because I have family up there and I love to go visit. And when I was younger, I used to go up there for the I have half my family is in New England, and the other half is don't fucking shoot me, is in Philadelphia. Okay, so that's like my kind of like my other like home away from home. Matter of fact, my brother-in-law that's a chef is in.
You're safe here. One of the former members is a big part of the Eagles, Chuck, and congrats to Chuck and his Eagles.
Yeah.
Yeah, I said.
Hey, you know what? If you can't beat them, join them. Yeah. So I said to my family, I said, look, I'm like, the Cowboys are out of it. I will root for the Eagles, and I hope they win the Super Bowl. But then when that's over with, I'm going to go back to hating them, because that's just I live in. That's just what we do.
It's what we have to do.
But I will tell you the amount of hate that the Dallas fans have for the Philly, for the Eagles, is way less intense than the Philly fans have for Dallas. Like, if you go up there...
Yeah, where's some Dallas Cowboys shit in downtown Philly? I dare you.
Yeah.
Like, you are literally risking your life.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, that's no joke. Like, that's as hardcore, if not more hardcore, than, like, the old school 90s rivalry and beyond of, like, Chiefs-Raiders type stuff. I mean, like, that's intense, man. But yeah, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah. So I used to go up there over the holidays. I would go up, over Christmas time and Thanksgiving, right? And I remember one year I was in Boston, and I was staying with my stepmom, who lives in the city, and we got a snowstorm. And so I was flying out the next day, and I live in Dallas. So I knew it was cold. I mean, you know what I mean. So I dressed. I had my sweaters and stuff like that. But I had my sneakers on and everything. And my stepmom was like, "Hey, Kenny, you need to go out and shovel the driveway." And I'm like, fuck. I'm not shoveling the fucking driveway. I didn't say it like that to her, of course, but I'm thinking
in your mind.
On my mind. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, if you want it, she's like, because my flight left in like a couple hours. She's like, if you want me to take you to the airport, you're going to need to shovel the driveway so we can get the car out. I'm like, fuck me. So I'm out there fucking shoveling away. You know, my sneakers are soaked, you know, whatever. And I remember doing that as a kid. You know, when you were a kid, it was fun. You didn't care because you were out of school.
Bullshit.
But you were out of school typically, and so that part was, you know. So, anyways.
I mean, no, the level of, you understand that. People here don't understand that. Like, to get out of school in New England, you better hope that Northeasterner dumps a foot of snow. I mean, 6 inches and shit, that's going to get you a delay. That ain't getting you shit for getting out of school.
Back when I was a kid, that was nothing. You know, you remember, I'm older.
Well, I moved from Kansas. We didn't even own a snow shovel.
Oh, really?
And the first year we moved to Glastonbury in 92-ish, like end of 92, early 93. And I remember it. Like, we moved there right before school started. I remember getting through, like, you know, the end of summer, fall. And when winter hit,
how old were you back then?
13.
Okay, all right. So you're okay.
So I mean, like, I remember when that first nor'easter hit, we did not own a snow shovel. We got like over 2 feet of snow. That year, at the time in '93, that was the record for the most snow they had gotten in a year in like a really long ass time. Yeah. And I remember in our driveway, kind of like you pulled into the driveway and it went straight down and then you went into the garage, right? And I remember my dad coming wake me up and being like, hey, get out there. You're delayed. I need to get to work. Go shovel the driveway. I'm like, with what? Like, we didn't even own a snow shovel. Like, literally. Like, I literally had a dirt shovel and was looking out there and I'm looking at it. I'm like, I walk back in the house. I'm like, Dad, how much money are you paying me to shovel this driveway?
That was a mistake.
No. He's like, hey, you and your brother get that done so I can get to work. I'll give you $20. He's like, $10 a piece. I'm like, all right. He's like, so get your brother up, get him to go help you, and get it done. Well, I look across the street, and there's this kid that's in high school, and he's the, like, long-haired Metallica dude with his Firebird, and he's out there with this thing I've never seen shooting snow 20 damn feet in the air.
He had a snowblower.
He's got a damn snowblowing machine. And I'm like, what the hell is that? So I walk across the street and I'm like, hey, man, tell me about this. He's like, oh, you guys don't have one yet. You just moved here, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, snowblowing machine. I was like, how much for you to do my driveway? He's like, I don't know, $10. I'm like, bet, deal. Like, cool, can you do it when you finish here? He's like, yeah, I'm almost done. I just got to do the sidewalk for the mailman. I'm like, cool, you can do that too? He's like, oh yeah, man. He's like, I'll do your sidewalk, I'll do the driveway. Give me 20 minutes. I'm like, you can do all that in 20 minutes? He's like, yep. I walked back inside, went back to sleep. My dad came down, got out of the shower and shit. He was mad as hell. Hey, what are you doing? You're supposed to be shoveling the driveway. I'm like, hey, the driveway's done, but I need my money. He's like, need your money? I'm like, yeah, I need my money. And he's like, all right, well, here you go. He handed me $20, and he's like, all right. My dad walked out and looked, and he goes, how much did the guy across the street charge you to do the driveway? I was like, that's between you and him. But it was $10 for me, but you can go do it. My dad's like, you can be in sales one day, I know it. So he hired that guy until my dad ended up that spring buying one at a garage sale, and then we finally had a snow blower. But I have zero desire to ever shovel snow again in my life like that. And wash your car of the salt and all the shit every time. Like, oh, that shit's miserable.
My wife knew we were seriously moving from Nebraska when the first thing.
Oh, is that where you come?
Yeah, from Omaha. I'm from the same place the Fricks are from.
Oh,
literally.
No kidding.
We know each other from Omaha. Yeah. So when she seen I sold the snowblower in November, she knew I was not playing that. We were moving. She didn't believe me. I sold my bar. I sold my pool table, my coveted pool table. Got rid of my fish tanks that I've been having for years. She still didn't believe me. But when she seen that snowblower get loaded up on the back of somebody's truck, she said, oh shit, we're moving. I said, yes, ma'am. The snowblower leaves, you know, then it's real.
It's funny because even now, like people, you know, we've had some cold days here, this and that, whatever.
Yeah.
Typical winter in Dallas. Like I don't mind the cold. I don't mind. It's a nice little change. You know, I mean, I don't want it to be cold every single day, but I don't mind the cold. But it's the fucking precipitation of the ice and the snow that I just don't want to. Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've kind of hammered through some of that stuff. Let's talk about Kenny the artist, because this fascinates me that you do this as well. So, I mean, you're not just a talented chef, you're also a very skilled artist. And I know you just had your first big show for St. Jude's, and you donated everything you sold. And I think you pretty much sold out or real damn close to it. So, how did you start experiencing and gambling in the world of art and go from cooking to Kenny the painter, the artist?
Well, first of all, thank you for the kind words again. So, I've been cooking for 35 years, and in restaurant business, and still enjoy it. But, after a while, you get to a point where it's like, okay, I need something else to express my, creativity. All right. And the one thing about the restaurant business is again, when you're being creative, you also have to be mindful of what people want, right? You have to think about like what you like, and then say, okay, and so you have to kind of bridge that gap, right? And and after doing that for a long time, it's like, okay, I want to do something where I can be completely free, right? And do whatever it is that I want to do. So I was thinking about something, what other like thing could I do? What hobby could I do that would, that I could express myself creatively? And one of my mentors said to me, he's like, Kenny, well, have you thought about painting? And I was like, well, what do you mean? I mean, like the house? And he goes, no. He goes, with, like artistically with like canvas and a brush, whatever. And I said, no, not really. I said, but when I was a kid, I always loved like arts and crafts and things like that. But I never really thought about that. I said, I've never really been able to like draw or like, I was like, I could never stay in the lines. You know what I mean? Like I was that kid, And so, anyway, so I went out, and this was before the pandemic. This was like, 2000, I think 2019-ish, something like that, 2018, 19. And so I went out, said, you know what, let me give it a go. So I went over to Michael's, and bought some paints, some canvases, and started playing around. And I remember, and I was like, man, this is really fun. I really like this. And I remember visiting my aunt up back in Boston, who is a pretty well-known sculptor. She's a professional artist, and I said, Aunt Ruth, I'm experimenting with painting and this and that. And she's like, oh, let me show me a picture. And I showed her, and she's like, oh, she said, she looked at that, and she goes, well, that's very Pollock. And I was like, what? I said, who is that? Like, she was referring to Jackson Pollock, and I didn't have a clue, whatever. And I didn't know what I was doing. I'm just playing around. So anyways, time went on, and I started learning about different artists and different, I've always collected art. Like I love art. Like I love, anything, any kind of art. I'm, just always been appreciative of all that. But so I started painting, and I started doing more. Became friends with a guy who had a gallery at the time in the design district down there on Dragon Street. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but he gave me a few lessons, and again I took online classes and kept learning and growing, and I really was getting into it. It was kind of like it reminded me of learning how to cook all over again, because you have all these materials, you know what I mean? It's like literally, it's like you're learning a language, right? And so, anyway, so I kept doing it, and I kept making art, and then the pandemic hit, right? And so I would do it here and there. The pandemic hit, we were all locked up, right? Restaurants were closed. And I didn't want to spend any money because we didn't know when we knew it was going to happen. But I had paints and canvases, so I started making more and more art, and I was home all day. And my friend said to me, the one that's an artist, he said, Kenny, you should. And by this time, we had opened. It was like late fall, early winter of 2020. So things were like opening up, And he said, Kenny, you should put some of your work up on at the Woodfired Grill on the wall and sell it, And I'm like, I'm like, nah. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Whatever. People will laugh at it, and we all have our inner critic, right? And I said, besides, I said, I don't feel right taking people's money, trying to sell it, because they're, I make my living from the restaurants, right? So people are coming in to eat, and plus, again, always wanted to do something where I could give back. So I thought, let me find a charity that, a good organization that I, that I could maybe give the money to. And so I partnered with St. Jude Children's Hospital, and how that sort of came about was, look, no matter what illness you have, at what age, that it's terrible, all of it. And so I don't, again, whatever illness you have at whatever age is horrible. But to me, there's just something about kids with cancer and debilitating disease. It's just not fair. It's like they haven't even had a chance to live yet. Again, it's not fair for the people to get cancer at any age. You know what I mean? But I just really struck a chord with me. And so I said, you know what, I'm gonna partner with St. Jude. And I don't know, are you guys familiar with St. Jude? It's really cool.
When we were in radio, we went to Tennessee every year and visited the hospital, and we always did a drive for St. Jude.
Okay, so you know. So
Yep.
so and so anyway, I mean, the families never get a bill, and they're the leading, back in the day when a kid got cancer, he had a survival rate of like, I don't know, 30% or something, but now it's like a 94% survival rate with the research that they do. Anyways, so I said, okay, I took a wall, one of the walls at the Wood Grill that's close to the bar, and I put 3 paintings up there. Literally was fucking terrified, because the thing about artwork, especially when you make something, and look, you're a filmmaker, it's not like, I mean, food it's kind of personal, but this is really, really personal stuff. You know what I mean? So I put it up there.
So you started walking around your restaurant naked, is what I'm hearing.
Basically, that's exactly right.
I got you.
Naked, singing in the shower,
Yeah.
right? I mean, literally. And so I put it up there, and I'm like, whatever. And I put, I made signs with kind of like as if you were in an art gallery, and I started selling stuff, and it was great, because it's really like, I wasn't like, a lot of times, like, you donate to something and people say, all the profit goes, whatever. Well, the way I do this is you make a donation directly to St. Jude. So I don't, 100% of the money goes to them. But I started selling stuff, and I was like, shit, and then I started selling more and more. And it got to the point where I was like, I couldn't, like, I was running out of art, and so I, as I've, progressed and things have, kind of got, obviously the world's gotten back to normal, I've taken kind of a big step back from the restaurant business. I've got some great business partners and a great team. So I have a lot more, time on my hands, and I feel like the art is basically kind of my like next chapter of life, and it's really a win-win, because the thing about art is, and again, you guys may already know this, or people listening, but it is so liberating and so freeing, because I can do whatever I want. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't have to ask anybody. I can do anything I want to do, and I'm not worried about, like, I don't have to make money from it. So it's like, I don't care if it sells, great. If it doesn't sell, that's okay too.
Yeah, if you scrap the whole thing,
exactly.
it doesn't matter.
think one of the things that I've learned is what makes really strong art is that art that's different, right? And so if you make art that is authentically you, meaning, in other words, you're not trying to chase the market, you're not trying to copy somebody else, you're making art that is you. You're an individual, you're different than everybody else, someone's going to resonate with that. So it kind of fits with that. So I really...
Just like Bob Duff, apparently, and his son really resonated with this penis painting that you made him donate.
Oh, my God.
Jude.
Yeah, you know what? Okay, so I made this painting. I wish I had matter of fact, it may be on my website.
What's your website?
It's KennyBowersArt.com. Okay? And
Y'all go check that out. He's got some dope stuff.
KennyBowersArt.com. And the name of the... Now, I remember, you have to understand, when I made this, that was not at all what I was intending to do, right? That's the thing about art. Hey, one thing about abstract art is people see what they want to see.
What I'm hearing is Bob and Preston just saw a penis in a painting and decided they wanted
Well, it was a very large one, and honestly, I mean, so what does that tell you? I mean, are they making up for deficiencies? And so, but here's the kicker, Garrett. The name of the painting, and again, I didn't even think about this, was Go Big or Go Home. Like, I swear to God. So anyways, you know, and I was like, and again, once you see something, you can't unsee it. But yeah, Preston bought that painting for like, I think $200 or $300, and you know, so at least I know it has a good home. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I heard all about it. It's funny.
But yeah, man. So I started doing that, and then, you know, it sort of took a life on of its own, and I started making more and more art, and it got to the point where the art was, you know, it was like overflowing, literally in my house, like literally all over the place. And I'm like, okay, I'm making art faster than, you know, I'm selling, because, you know, people go to the restaurants to eat. You know, I sell some online, this and that, and we sell some. And I thought,
I mean, I can't tell you how long I've eaten there and not. I mean, I've seen the artwork, but didn't realize that it was like for sale or that it was your art. Like, so much of it just kind of goes with the vibe and everything, and you just think it's your vibe for the restaurant.
Right. So I thought, you know, I'm like, okay.
Granted,
so
there's not penises on the wall, but
exactly. I mean, there may be hidden in there. You just can't see them. Anyway, so I kept, you know, doing it, and I got to the point where I was like, okay, I needed to take a step, and I thought, you know what, I need to, like, basically, you know, kind of come out a little bit and really, you know, kind of open myself up, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to
put yourself out there.
Put myself out there, and my house was overflowing with art, so I'm like, I'm going to do this, and so I said, I'm going to do an art show, and you know, and I had like, I think I had accumulated like 65 paintings. And I was absolutely fucking terrified. I mean, because it is so personal, and most of my artwork is about overcoming obstacles. It's about you know, transformation. A lot of butterflies in there.
I was going to ask. I'm looking at your work now. So there's a couple here. Are those? Do you painted these butterflies, or are they butterflies on top of?
Some of them a lot. Some of the butterflies are almost like it's like a painting sculpture combo. It's like I buy the butterfly,
and the
but
paintings
then I paint
underneath
the background.
Okay,
some
I
of the
see that.
butterflies I paint, but a lot of them, and so, but a lot of, like, for example, those busy, they have to do with, you know, again, what a butterfly has to go through to become a butterfly. Transformation.
No, your titles say it all on a lot of these.
Exactly, and it's all about it, you know, again, like what you have to go through, you know, from a caterpillar to a butterfly. It's fucking painful, and we all have a growth. We've all had times in our life that, you know, things we've struggled with. I know I have. So that's really, you know, the art is a lot of the art is about that. And so I thought, let me do this show, and we, you know, it's funny. It was a way bigger undertaking than I didn't realize how much it was involved. But again, luckily I met some great people. Like, I have a lady that I work with Christine Atkins, she's a great, amazing art teacher. She helped, organize it. My business partner, Clay, we had a lot of help.
And y'all probably wouldn't realize this. I mean, like, he's not kidding. Like, he seriously was, like, worked up and stressed and nervous about this for months.
Terrified.
I mean, literally months. Like, we talked about this at the gym on a, like, daily basis almost. Like, because he wanted to do the show. We talked about doing it before so we could promote it, or maybe afterwards, and like he just had so much on his plate, we decided that it was best for him and best for us to like just wait till it was all over with. But even someone that's on a big stage as he is, it took a lot for you to do that and just put yourself out there. I mean, I saw the daily struggle you were having with yourself, like working it out in the gym, like trying to like motivate yourself to do it.
It was, but I'll tell you, I think in life, right? In life, like that's what it's all about, right? And so, I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. I am going to do this, and I committed to do it. And I was very grateful. Had a lot of people that helped, great, all the team at the Italian and everybody, and I thought, okay, we're going to advertise on, social media, this, that, whatever. And I felt like, we would get a good turnout. We would get a lot of people because we're very grateful. We have a great following of people. But I didn't know how much art we'd sell. I mean, I knew people would come by, to show their support. But I didn't, I figured we'd sell a little bit. Anyways, we ended up selling, like you said, we sold 55 or 65 paintings and raised like 18 grand for St. Jude.
That's amazing.
So it really, man. It was honestly, it was so great.
Good for you, man.
Thank you. And now I'm just shy total of $80,000 raised for St. Jude over the last few years. And
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's been great, and again, St. Jude's such a great organization, but I tell you, making art has taught me so much. Again, I've had a lot of
You had an interesting conversation with me about the childlike mind that it taught you.
Oh yeah, so like Picasso, one of Picasso's famous, quotes is, I spent 4 years trying to paint like Raphael, and a lifetime to learn how to paint like a child, And it's like, you ever see like kids that, like little kids that they just paint, and you give them crayons and they're playing and they're doing, and it's so expressive. And
Elon Musk did it and made a truck out of it.
Okay, and you
facts.
And you never, they haven't like been corrupted by the world yet. They're open, they're free, they're just playing, and they're like, and they're just completely expressive with no critical voice or anything. And it's really, you can learn a lot from kids, and it's like, to me, making art is the process of becoming yourself, because it's like you make the art and then you look at it, that is you, like that's what you just made, you know what I mean? And it's really it's a lot of it's like self-acceptance. It's like, again, we are all critical of ourselves, but it's like it teaches you, hey, I made this, you know what I mean? And and it's like, I made that, like that came from me. And it's like, hey, it's not perfect. Like that's one of my big deals is embracing the beauty of imperfection.
So has becoming the artist, Kenny Bowers, changed your approach or how you look at being a chef now? Has that changed anything for you in the culinary world?
I think it's, I don't know that it's changed much for me in the culinary world, but I think in general, like with people, and the teams and everything, it's definitely taught me to be way more accepting. Because I think if you can accept yourself, you can be way more accepting of other people, So I don't know that it's affected me. I think, you know what, Garrett? I think that it's affected me in terms of, I think I'm probably, when it comes to cooking, probably way less self-critical now than I was, I think. Because it's good. Making art is a humbling experience.
Yeah, especially when you start putting it out there and you're trying, even when you're doing it for charity. I mean, like you said, you're still putting yourself out there, and like you want it to be successful and for people to enjoy it and appreciate it and to help the kids. So, I mean, God, it's just like anything else. It's like walking on a stage for the first time or speaking in public. Like you're putting it all out there.
You really are, and it definitely taught me a lot. And but yeah, I love doing it. I mean, literally, like, again, I feel very grateful because, you know, people, you know, I'm not retired yet, you know what I mean? But I'm, you know, I mean, a few years, I probably, hopefully will be, knock on wood, but having something that you're passionate about, whatever it is, you know, is a blessing, you know.
So you've made some really bold decisions in your career. I mean, whether it was deciding to leave the insurance world and go into a partnership and learn the restaurant world, to veering away from that and starting your own thing in another partnership, and then breaking off and starting your own thing after that, and then, hey, to turn this hobby into something else. When you look back, was there like a really hard moment in your journey along the way that like you didn't know how you were going to get through it, that maybe turned into a stepping stone or something, or that like, and how did you push through that, or how did that turn into like that golden nugget for you?
God, I mean, honestly, Garrett, several. I mean,
is there like a big one that maybe just stands out? Like,
I would say
that you think would be valuable to somebody else that maybe wanted to go into the restaurant path or the chef path?
Again, there were a lot of things along the way, and I'm going to try to answer the best I could. But when we opened my main, I have two business partners right now, Bob Stiegel and Clay McAfee. Clay joined us later on, but Bob was my business partner at the Wood Grill from the beginning. If you read the menu, he's the smart one. So that's what we get. Really wonderful person, great guy, and nuclear smart. But I remember we opened the Wood Grill, and I've always tried to win, lose, or draw, leave it all out on the field, if you will, and again, go big or go home. And if I'm gonna fail, I'm going down in a blaze of glory. That's just, you know what I mean? And I said to Bob, I'm like, let's just let's do this thing and do it no matter what happens. At the end of the day, we'll know that we gave it all we had. And I think that, you know, there were, and we really believed in what we were doing. And let me tell you, the first year at the Wood Grill was brutal. I mean, that's why I have no hair. You know, well, my hair was falling out after, you know, whatever, but it's like, it was brutal. It was really, really difficult. We had barely had enough money to survive. I mean, like, when I say barely, I'm talking, there were days where we'd call the bank to check the balance. And I'm sure people out there listening can appreciate, whether it's personal or business, we'd have like $12 in the bank, you know, praying for a busy night and just going through all that. And, but we believed in what we were doing, and we kept after it. And, you know, little by little, you know, little by little, we you know, we kept building the business. And, you know, I just think that if you really believe in what you're doing, there was somebody said this to me, you can't fail if you don't give up, you know. And it would have been really easy to throw in the towel, just because we were at the point where it's like, okay, I mean, how much, if it doesn't work, like how much in debt do you want to be, you know, and all this. But we stuck with it, and it ended up working. But you know, I think I'm trying to answer your question the best I can. I think this is the advice that I give a lot of younger kids. As a matter of fact, the two young girls that work at the front desk, Aaron and Shelby. I don't know if you ever chat with them. I love talking to them. They're in college, and I always give them advice just because I've always made so many mistakes. But if you find something that you really love to do, right, and you're passionate about it, you're going to want to do it a lot, right? If you love it, if you're really into it. Like we were talking about your all the thing, and you're like, man, this is what I do. I love, if you love it and you do it all the time, you're going to get good at it, right? You can't not. You're gonna get better and better
The
at it.
10,000 hour rule.
What's that?
The 10,000 hour rule.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but you're gonna
have the discipline to grind through the hard
right.
times.
But if you
You're gonna
love
stay
it,
with it.
if you really love it, you're gonna do it all the time. And guess what? If you do it, you're gonna get good at it. And if you get good at it, at some point you'll be able to make money at it. Maybe are you gonna have a private jet? Maybe not, but you'll be able to make a living at it. So it's like I always encourage people, try to find something that you love to do. So because even in those hard times when we would be at the restaurant and there'd be like 5 tables for the whole night, we still loved what we were doing. And I hope that answers it. There's a lot of stuff along the way that like stepping stones.
Well, you're not. I mean, I think you find a lot of things that you kind of get into, and I know we're getting some questions about this too. So,
Sure.
Not only did you become an artist, but there's some other hobbies and interests you have that I'm personally intrigued with. Like, I know you're a car guy.
Yeah.
I know you're really into the racing thing.
Yes.
And
That's my other main. Well, it's so funny because art and racing cars are completely fucking opposite.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like the adrenaline junkie and then the guy that just wants to woo-saw and let it all out.
Well, the thing about the car deal is, so all right, so I have anxiety. Other people have anxiety, fear, things like that. And I remember going with a friend of mine out to the racetrack, and I was fucking terrified. And he said, he took me for a ride. And I remember once I got past the first 30 seconds and realized that we weren't going to die, like it was going to be okay, I thought, you know what? I want to learn how to do this. And so I started, dabbling in it. And I thought, if I can fucking do this, if I can learn how to do this, if I can have the courage to, take a corner at 100 miles an hour and, basically drift the car around and hold it right on the, if I can have the courage to do that, I can fucking do anything. So really a lot of the car stuff, and I love cars and all that. Mm-hmm. And of course, Garrett, the camaraderie that goes along with it is fantastic. I mean, the group of guys is great, but
there's a lot of car junkies up here, and a lot of them that are really into not just F1 but racing. And I mean, Brandon Frakes is pretty ate up with it.
Oh yeah, we go to the same.
He's got simulators and everything.
Yeah, and it is to me, because believe it or not, as far as adrenaline, like I'm not a big adrenaline junkie person. But it was like, if I can do that, if I can,
to challenge yourself.
I like that. That's exactly right. If I can learn how to do this, I can do anything. So it's been great for just my, confidence, stuff like that. And again, the camaraderie part of it is fantastic.
So you're up at Eagle Canyon?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
ECR?
Yeah.
So what do you? I gotta ask. I'm a car junkie. What are you
okay.
driving?
I've got a GT3. A Porsche GT3, and
ladies and gentlemen,
you see how calmly you said that? My dream car.
I am no longer talking for the rest of the night.
Hey, you have
my dream car.
Come out and I'll take you for a ride.
No. Because the last time I went to Eagle Canyon for a ride in a GT3.
Did you get sick?
Second lap, I threw up everywhere. Well, he pulled over, of course, and I was like, and I've raced motorcycles. I thought I was doing something in my when I got in a real car with a real driver. Yeah. Oh, it's too. Yeah, I can't.
Well, you know
drive.
what it is. You know what it is. Busy. A lot of it's like kind of like when you're on an airplane. It's like when you're not, or you're in the back of a car. When you're not driving and you're not. Even me.
Your focus is different.
If I'm in the right seat with somebody, after a while, even as many times as I've done it, I get a little queasy sometimes. So you're not alone. But yeah,
I did not realize that car could. When we went around, well, the way we went, the track was going reverse.
Oh, you were going clockwise.
Right.
Oh, my
I didn't
God.
know that. We were driving that way,
Dude,
so I didn't know
that's
that
even-
goes this way.
Dude.
So we're going up that hill and coming back
Who were you
down.
riding with? Was it?
Dave Frakes is his boss.
Oh, were you riding with Scott Noble?
That dude,
Dude,
man.
Scott Noble is a fucking badass. Like he's
well,
like
here's the bad part. It
he's
wasn't
like-
Scott. It was his other driver. It's his partner driver.
Oh, Jason Hart?
Him.
Oh my God. Okay, well Scott's like basically like, like basically like a pro. Jason Hart is a pro like driver, and not only is a pro driver, a damn good, like amazing pro driver.
This dude is talking about his kids' life, whatever, like he's driving to the
right?
grocery store, and I'm watching my life pass in front of my eyes. And we hit a
150 miles an hour.
corner. We hit a corner, and then I heard, "Er." I said, "Did the tire just land?" He said, "Yeah, every corner we've been, we're on 3 tires." And then we come back down when we go off the apex, and I was like, so we're going, the G-forces are so much, and I was like, all these years, I thought I was driving. Everybody's a tollway
you're like,
driver.
I did 100 on the tollway.
Yeah, you think you're doing something.
Yeah.
Nah, when you do 100 in a hairpin curve and the car does it's on rails, and man, felt like I was in a fighter jet.
If you drove with Jason Hart,
3 laps, and I didn't make it through all 3.
He's the guy. Like in other words, he's the guy that we all like. He's very well known.
That's his
and-
partner driving. When they do
Yes.
these 24-hour races, man,
Yeah.
I'm like, you're literally this plugged in for like 6 hours at a time in this car, and then they get out the car and they drive it home. They literally go get. That's the car that's in his.
Yeah.
It had a garage door opener on the flap.
Mark, does that thing even
I'm
still
like,
run?
Damn. What is vet?
Yeah, he
Oh,
said
it
you
still
wouldn't throw
does.
up with him. He said smooth as glass. I don't know if you can see glass with the like inch of dirt on it, dust, because that thing's like turning into a dinosaur.
Well, that's what's so
in there.
cool is you drive it. They're the way they built. I mean, you drive to the track, you drive it
Driving
on
home.
the track, and
That
drive it
Porsche.
home.
That
Or,
Porsche, but that GT3. When I say you can ask any of my day one friends from kid, that's all I've ever wanted.
Yeah.
Then I seen the price tag on it and said, well, fantasy is
well, and
nice.
of course, the one that they have is like the most GT3.
Oh
you
man,
can
that
get.
car was. We drove M2s, the M2s that they
Yep.
got there. We were driving them all day, and I felt, I was doing so because
Now,
I've
did
had
they
a bunch.
let you? Did they take you on the skid pad, or did they like? There's a,
They
okay.
just stuck us on the track, got in the seat, and told me to watch my corners, watch my curve, shift here, do the typical stuff that you
Right.
learn how to do. Then we did that for like hours, and I get in the car with him, and I'm like, I didn't even want to drive my truck home. I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
That was, forget Worlds of Fun, forget Disney World, forget Universal Studios. You go around that track 3 times with a professional driver, want no roller coaster in the world.
well, and especially
to that.
I'm in
honestly-
because it all goes one way. See, I won't ride the rides where it like shoots you up, then you fall down and shoots
Bruh,
back up. I'm out on that.
It feels like that.
Yeah, because there's elevation.
There's
changes.
elevations, there's
and there's
curves.
a lot of this.
And
There's
then
a
they
lot
got
of-
that freaking long straightaway down the grandstand when they go 10 million miles an hour.
I'm fine with that, but my point of view
And they step
is
on the
straight
brakes.
ahead, and we can keep going, and we're moving forward.
Kenny,
Right. Not forward, backwards, forward,
please
backwards.
take him around. Just take him around 3 times. I
Yeah,
want to
we'll-
see what he looks
honestly,
like after.
Honestly, we'll have to do that. We'll have to get you guys.
I'll get my GoPro out, sticking on the car, sticking in the windshield so I can watch him go from his color to green. And then I'm going to be there with my
Highest
drone
chance to
so I
happen.
can see you pull over in a chicane somewhere and watch him throw up and then get back in the car.
if you went because counterclockwise is like the normal direction that we run.
went the other way.
Every once in a while they run it in the reverse, and it is because almost every corner is blind.
Yes.
and it's scary as shit.
And that's
because
what
you
they were
don't know-
teaching us on. Clockwise. So you're going. So if the
Man,
grandstands
they-
are here, we're going that way down
Yeah.
the straightaway, and there's this turn like comes out of nowhere. I'm standing on both feet on the brakes, trying to slow this car down. Then I got to remember to downshift it, and then try to turn into it to get my curve. My brain
If
don't
you've
process
never
that
honestly,
fast.
that's jumping into the fire, doing it. Listen, it's hard in the regular direction, but it's 10 times harder doing it.
I never hit the grass, but I wasn't really going fast enough
Yeah.
to hit the grass anyway. But yeah, so
That's wild.
car
I've been in the
racing.
grass.
Well, because you were probably doing something. I wasn't.
We call it landscaping. When you go off in the grass at 100 miles an hour, they don't need to mow that section of grass.
The guy I work with, JP, he races out there. Him and Lord have mercy, Ed. He drives a car. It's a yellow 350cz that says Jimmy on the back of it. They're out there every weekend, and the other one runs a CTSV. Edwin, that's his name.
Edwin, oh yeah,
Edwin's a teacher out there.
Oh yeah,
so he has
Dude,
the
Edwin's
CTSV.
got some freaking guns on him.
Yeah, Edwin's a big guy.
Edwin, let me tell you what his girlfriend.
She drives a BMW
Audrey,
M3.
We all hang out, and Ed, let me tell you what, super nice guy. I was having an issue with my car when I was out there, and he helped me, and they're really nice people.
I have an office in their shop, so I'm literally editing videos, smoking cigars, and there's a transmission here. There's a header over here. They took apart her whole entire BMW. The entire car, took it apart, rebuilt an engine, and stuck it all back together, and I'm sitting there typing watching this, and then they took it out and they said it raced better than before.
Yeah, they're good. They're really nice, and they're really great drivers too. I mean,
so let's see. He does pizza, he does barbecue, he does art, and now he races cars.
And he's a cigar dude.
Oh my gosh.
So what got you into cigars? Let's go down that for a little bit, 'cause that's been asked a couple times.
Okay, so here's the deal. So being in the restaurant business for, again, 35 years, I did my share of drinking. I drink martinis and bourbon and wine and all that shit. And then as I've gotten older, alcohol just makes me feel absolutely horrible. I mean, I can't, I might even have even like the other day I had 2 beers and I felt like shit the next day. I was up all night. It's just, I think it's just a function of age, and so, so I really don't drink anymore. And I was with some people. This was years ago. I was with some people, and we went to Chamberlain's for dinner. And so we met in the cigar lounge that they have there, and I thought, and we were eating in the cigar lounge, and I thought, what, let me try a cigar, and I was like, okay, I think I like that. This is kind of cool. And then slowly but surely, I met some different people and would go, I'd have a cigar there, and I'd go to this place in Addison near the airport. Forget the name of it, but and I really liked it, and I just love the fact that it's this sort of.
That place is like an old library of cigars.
Yeah, it's like a mellow. So it's like smoking a cigar is like the one thing. I can't smoke weed because it makes me paranoid, which when I was younger it didn't. But I can smoke a cigar and have a nice relaxing deal and a conversation, and it's mellow, and it's the one thing that doesn't bother me. It doesn't affect my sleep. It doesn't affect me at the gym. And it's like this sort of, it's just weird. It's like this mellow, like this place. I mean, this is a chill, I've never been in a cigar environment where it wasn't total chill.
Yeah, it's almost like going to a meditation lounge.
Yeah, and it's the one thing that I can do that, I'm sure that, listen, it's kind of funny that you and I knew each other from the gym and the cigar lounge. Right? I mean, listen, there's healthier things you can do, but I just, it's the one thing that I can do. It's it doesn't mess me up, and it's relaxing.
Everybody's got to have a vice.
Yeah.
You got to do
really
something. Bad one, or you could have a good one, or an in between, but everybody's got to have something.
Yeah.
The one thing that's dope about a cigar, we've always said this, but it is the great equalizer.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you make $3 an hour or if you're a multimillionaire. When everybody sits at that table with that cigar, everybody's on even playing field.
Well, and the other thing too is it doesn't whack. Meaning, in other words, yes, there's nicotine in it, and you get a little, but it's not like getting hammered. It's not like drinking. It's not like getting drunk and getting all whacked out. You know what I mean? It's
and if it's a bad cigar, you can put it out.
That part.
Rip, when was the last time somebody got arrested for, because of a cigar, or
Even during Prohibition, you could smoke a
If it could
cigar.
be
You
done,
just
it
couldn't
would be a
drink with
Dallas
it.
Cowboy.
Yeah.
Damn.
Oh, did somebody? Okay. Well,
No, I'm just saying. I mean, they
If it
find a way to
happened-
get arrested for everything. So I mean, I would
Yeah.
figure if
Yeah.
know, if it could be done, one of the Cowboys.
Yeah, but
would
that's
figure
how
out
I.
a way.
And then and then I remember. So John, I don't know if you know the Schaffners, John Schaffner. So John's the one that told me about this place, and so John. So I remember he said to me, he's like, "Let's go and I'll meet you at Industrial Cigar, have a cigar," and
Damn,
and
Grady's a liar. I'm just kidding.
no, and but I'll tell you what, I love this place. Like
Yeah.
I really, but you know what the thing is that makes this place, and you guys know, it's the people. You know, everybody's so nice, and but I can come up here in the afternoon and I can just chill out, and sometimes I'll smoke, and like at the racetrack, we have a small little humidor in our garage, and I remember, matter of fact, so John Schaffner, he was the one that kind of. And he keeps the cigars out there. And I remember I had just come in from the track, from the race, from the being on track, and he was sitting there with his two sons, and they were smoking cigars. And like, hey, Kenny, come join us. And they were sitting around. I love this. This is like the best story ever. And they were using a empty race gas fucking can as the table. Literally, with the top of the thing was off, and I was like, I'm like, no, it had been, I mean, it had been empty for a while, but still the fumes and stuff, and I'm like, is this safe? And yeah, that's how we smoke cigars at the racetrack. Yeah, using a race gas.
Let's just
can
blow
for-
some shit up.
Exactly.
I'm cool with it.
So, anyways, but I really, and I've been learning about cigars, and it's like I come in here and they a lot of the stuff, it's like, trial and error.
Yeah.
It's like trying different ones and stuff like that. So
Yeah, you have to, and it's funny. I talk to a lot of people that maybe aren't into it, or they're worried about it, or they had one bad experience, and I mean, that can happen. I mean, if you get a cigar that hasn't been aged right, or maybe it's just a shitty cigar, I mean, like, yeah, you will get that funky coating in your mouth, or taste it for days or whatever, but like that's not the majority of cigars, especially today, and especially if you go to a place that has a quality selection in their humidor.
You know what's interesting, and I don't know, maybe you guys can answer. It just seems like in the last, I don't know, maybe 5 to 7 years, cigars have become way more.
We just
The
said
new
that it's the Renaissance. Yeah, it is.
Just like you had the bourbon thing for a while,
Yep.
and then it was tequila. Cigars have steadily been becoming culturally
because you're seeing
acceptable again.
younger people smoking cigars. You're seeing more women smoke cigars. You're seeing a lot more lounges and mom and pop shops, pop up.
Well, what's really interesting is my business partner sent me because we study all the stuff in the restaurants, the consumption of alcohol, and it shows all the different, like, the Gen Xers, the Gen Ys, the millennials, and what's the generation now that's
Alpha or something like that.
It's not.
I can't even keep up, and they keep changing.
But anyways,
the youngins.
But the alcohol consumption now is like gone, and in the younger generation is in the billions less. Like it's dropped off big time, and I think the younger people they're doing different things, and it's really interesting how that.
Yeah, they're against all that stuff, but they have no problem vaping their life away.
Yeah,
with,
they're doing a bunch of AI synthetic shit.
vape
That's
bullshit.
whatever.
That's- Who knows what's going to come from that popcorn lung and all this other.
Oh
crazy
yeah,
stuff
but it's
they're talking
interesting though that like you talk about cigars are kind of coming back,
Yes.
have become.
I
more
see a lot of
popular.
younger guys in here, like all the guys from my gym. They always meet me up here on Fridays just to get a smoke, just to kind of hang out. And the young guys, and I mean, these are all a lot of church folks. A lot of people are like, hey, don't you go to my church? Hey, you go to my church, whatever. Like, just it doesn't really matter your background. Yeah. It is just about that camaraderie and when everybody, because like everybody I know came from this place.
Well, and it's like you said,
literally,
it's the great equalizer.
Yep.
And it's funny because like at the racetrack, it's a little bit different. But a lot of people think, oh, you know, that's a rich man sport and all that. It's really not. I've got friends that have, like, there's guys out there that, of course, there's motorcycles out there.
Oh, yeah.
But there's guys out there that have, like, Miatas.
I was about to say the Miata.
The Miata's a great track car and, you know, whatever. But it doesn't matter if you've got a Miata or a Porsche or a Corvette or a Honda Civic.
Mark.
You know, it's the common thing, and you're talking, and it's really as much about the camaraderie. So yeah,
I can't wait to see this. I've never been out there.
I can't wait
Garrett,
to see you.
you'll-
I just can't wait to see you take 3-4 laps and see what you look like
now
after.
listen, don't.
Hey, it's
I
worth it
can't-
because that's my dream car. So like, I
Mine
really
too.
don't give a shit. I'll go all in. I'll be ready.
Man, I wish. Anyway, I do have a poster of a GT3 literally in my office.
Oh, do you really?
Oh man, when
Well,
I say
let
I
me
love
tell you,
that car.
I've had it for I've driven a lot of other. The last car I had was a mid-engine, and you know the rear engine. They're extremely. One of the reasons I got it is because they're extremely difficult to drive on the limit. You have to have really, like you have to be. It's a lot of car because it's rear engine. All the weight's in the back, and there's a lot of power, and you know there's like it's kind of like there's a lot of traction, you know, in the back. But it's like if you when you're driving a race car, the idea is to get the rear end to kind of dance a little bit. But in a 911 platform, all the weight's in the back. So if you get it to dance too much, you get the pendulum effect. And yeah, so it's an amazing car, but it was built for somebody like Jason Hart that took you, or
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It's kind of like a challenge to learn how to drive it. So
How do you balance all this? You have so many different things going on. How do you block time? Do you just pick and choose, like Wednesdays is for this, Thursdays are for that, 7 to 9 p.m.? Like, I mean, and I don't mean blocking in a way like, well, I'm blocking time in my life to try to get a company started and get things done, but
Yeah.
you're living life. So how do you block time to live life? Because everything you've said and everything we talked about so far is what you really like to
And
do.
run a restaurant. I mean,
That's what I'm saying. Business, all that stuff.
Restaurants.
But he likes what he does for business. So I'm like,
Yeah.
how do you, how do you manage your week with all these things?
luckily now, again, we've got a really great, team of people, and so I don't have to worry about the day to day in the restaurants. You know what I mean? We've got a really great team that does that. So most of the stuff that I do for the restaurants is more on the creative side. So it's more behind the scenes. So I don't have to, and so. But I work with a gentleman who's like a life coach that I think everybody needs a mentor, right? Like we talked about. And one of the things I've been working, let's face it, you get to a certain point in life, none of us are getting any younger. We were talking about that earlier. And so I try to listen. There's always things you do in life that you really don't want to do, but you need to do them, right?
Yeah.
I try to, as much as possible, spend as much time as I can doing the things that I love to do, and so it's kind of like just exactly what you just said, Busy. It's like, hey, on tomorrow, and it doesn't always happen that way. I mean, trust me, like the last month or a few months it's been a little crazy for me, as you know. But
I tell you what, he's still at the gym every morning.
Yeah.
Every
And dude,
morning.
I'm pretty proud of myself right now because I'm on an 8 to 4 schedule. I usually go to bed at 8 and I'm up at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I'm like, but I took a nap today, so I'm ready to go.
That's awesome.
But I just like what you said, I try to do it like, hey, it's like I get my work done, it's stuff that I want, but I try to spend, time. Again, if I get a free day and I can go to the track, I do that. I try to spend my time painting. It doesn't always happen that way, but I try to do different things on different days. So
Well, you touched on something there. Let's dive into that. How did you build the team you have, and how did you select those people? Because that's not easy, and I know you and I had an interesting conversation earlier this week about that.
Yeah.
And that very factor of you do eventually have so many things that have to be accomplished, or and these different people that have to be a part of it to make it successful, because you eventually at some point you can't do everything, and you have to like hand the keys over at times to certain people and let them take the wheel and go.
It's I mean, honestly, it's really a team business. You know, it's just like football or any other, you know, team sport. It's like, you know, I mean, at any given time, you have 40 or 50 people in a restaurant. I mean, you know, people working in the restaurant. And, you know, if all it takes is one person to drop the ball, and, you know, a lot of bad things can happen. But we're, you know, lucky. I mean, you know, my business partner, Bob, and I started, you know, 20 years ago. Our philosophy was always, look, you can teach somebody all the technical stuff. Like, you can teach somebody how to, like, you know, wait tables. You can teach them how to cook this and that and the other. But we just tried to bring people on our team that were good people, you know, and that cared about what they were doing. And we felt like if we could do that, we could teach them the other stuff. And that's kind of has always been our philosophy. It's just, you know, again, partnering with really good people, you know, and it's kind of taken on a life of its own. And, you know, we've just been really fortunate that way.
That's
so,
awesome.
yeah.
All right, I got some just like, we'll go with some just random questions here. And if any of y'all that have been staying with us this whole time have other questions, fire them in here. So I'm going to try to get through more of these, because there's no way in hell I'm getting through all of the questions I had for you. We're just going to have you back again at some point.
Okay, I'm down with that.
So when you're sitting down to eat something that you didn't cook, what's the one dish that always like makes you smile, that's like a go-to for you?
Oh, like me, like Last Supper kind of shit?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Like, what's that dish you crave? Like, you go back home, or mom made it, or whatever.
Veal Parmesan. Or chicken Parmesan. That is my, like, literally, like, that's my Last Supper right there. Just simple. You know, not complicated, but simple. You know, that would, to me, that would be, you know, and then there's two behind that.
Okay.
Cheeseburgers and pizza. Not necessarily in that order.
See, this is why him and I can't talk when I'm dieting or on a strict diet.
No, but I like...
Because he will ruin your diet, I promise you.
I like simple food. I like simple things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not complicated. But yeah. Yeah.
All right. So you've opened up a lot.
And let me and a cannoli for dessert.
Cannoli.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Not with candied fruit, with chocolate chips.
I'm a fried ice cream guy.
Oh yeah. God.
Fried ice cream is like the magic, and creme brulee. Like those two things, dessert-wise, that takes the cake for me.
Very cool. Yeah, I haven't had fried ice cream in 100 years, but damn, it's
the
good.
best I ever had was this Mexican restaurant in Kansas City. I think it was right outside Overland Park, called Tequila Harry's. I think that's what it was called. If my mom's listening, you comment on it and tell me if I'm wrong or right there. But it was. It was almost like, it was kind of like their version of Ponchos, you know, like raise the flag, little better quality, but like, man, they had a fried ice cream, and they had two different ones. They had a regular one that had the traditional, like, I'll call it the cornflake, coconut, you know, outer layer. And then they had one that was like a Fruity Pebbles type mix. And, man, they were killer, both of them. So you've opened a lot of restaurants. Which one gave you the most sleepless nights, and why?
The Woodfired Grill gave me the most sleepless nights because it was a culmination of basically all my years of when I was younger and having a corporate, you know, restaurant job and all that. My business partner Bob, that I mentioned, he had a wife and 3 kids, and basically had signed his life away, and I just felt like you know, I was responsible. Like, it wasn't just me. You know, I was really responsible for affecting other people's lives. And it was really, and what we projected we were going to do and what we were actually doing, there was a huge discrepancy. And I just felt like, I can't let it fail. Like, I felt like
y'all burned the ships.
I felt like, yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, and honestly, and I felt like I put my name on it. I mean, I put my, Kenny's Woodfired Grill, and I felt like, I was really putting it out there, like we talked about, and I felt like just terrified, just that this, I mean, this could,
Your partner must really not have much of an ego. So, like, was there ever any battle about what you named the place? Like,
no, I mean,
that he's a part of it, but like it's Kenny's.
Oh yeah, big part of it. I mean,
yeah.
And he. So what happened was when we did, again, I came from Rockfish, and I knew a lot of people, and he knew that. He actually lived in Fort Worth at the time. And truth be told is, you know me, I'm not an ego type of person.
Yeah, you're not at all.
I put my name on it. It's funny, my uncle always taught me never put your name on a business because it's really hard to sell. But I did it because I felt like I knew so many people in the Dallas area that it would help build the business. And he was always cool with that. And he knew that it was a group. I mean, him and I decided that together. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, because I think, restaurants might be the one exception to that, but I think it's very important. I mean, that's one of the things I've gone back for. A personal brand is way more important these days than a general brand.
Yeah.
Like common sense, like that makes sense, no pun intended, in the avenue that I was trying to go, but it was like there's a whole nother platform I'm working on that it would have made way more sense for it to be a personal brand because I don't just sell or sit down with one type of guest. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like I don't just sit down with multifamily people in my industry. I have restaurant owners, entrepreneurs, cigar guys, you name it. Like we go all across the board. So that's a lot harder to market. Where if I was just doing a personal brand, that would have been way easier to market in the long run. So that's always a balance. But I find it intriguing to see how you guys worked that out because that's rare that you get two strong alpha males that are like going out and entrepreneurs that are risking it all. And hey, we're going to call it Kenny's. Well, more in the spotlight.
One of the things that I've had some great partnerships over the years, but this has been the greatest. And one of the reasons, it's like a marriage, literally. We've been together for 20 years, and we were friends before that. But the thing that really makes it a great partnership is, we each know what our role is. Like Bob's nuclear smart. Bob runs the business side of it, watches the financial stuff. And if it wasn't for him, we probably wouldn't still be here. At the time, we never intended to have more than one restaurant, and that was it. And he goes, Kenny, he's like, if I can just make enough money. I said, what are your goals in life? He's like, I just want to, if I can make enough money to pay for most of my kids' college and just live a comfortable life, like that's all I want to do, and again, because the reason why we've always gotten along is because he does I am terrible good at that stuff, and I'm better at the other thing. And every once in a while, like I'll make a suggestion or whatever, or he'll make a suggestion. A long time ago, narrow your focus, strengthen your brand, and it's like